continuing the show with a very special person. And we're here to just talk about, it's the end of 2019, beginning 2020, a new decade. Lots of changes should be happening. I'm here with Dr. Delvena. Good morning, doctor.
Hey, good morning.
All right, so let's talk about this. We were just talking off air about the holidays and the pressures and the stress and this. Now, we've survived, I think, the holiday, Christmas, all the malls going crazy and everybody's returning stuff. But, what are your thoughts on just the madness of the holidays and the pressures and the stresses that,
Well, I think there's a whole process, right? And so we could actually break it down into sort of, I guess, the pre-phase, the beginning phases, right, of holiday madness, because people start thinking about the holidays like in October. Thanksgiving is coupled in there with Christmas. And then, of course, we hit New Year's. And so you have the buildup, all the stress that you have to think about with what you're doing with family or if you don't have family, right? So for every scenario, there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
And then you finally hit the holiday, and then once the holiday is over, it's like, oh shit, pardon me, oh shoot, it's back to real world. And so there's a lot of stress that's involved the entire scenario with the holidays. So each area or point in time has its own special stress because of dealing with either the holiday blues, planning for what you have to do, and then also what follows that, because people realize, I think, I'm going into a new year. There's got to be, we're all programmed to think about there has to be something different about me right now. I have to go into this new year. I got to do things differently. I have to make things happen.
The resolution has to happen the first day.
Exactly. And then we're getting away from the whole resolutions, right? Because people have downplayed that. Oh, don't have resolutions. You should have lifelong this and that. So people, though, are still making plans, and they're looking back over the last year and maybe the last few years, and they're saying, what can I do differently? How can I change? How can I transform? And that is the thing to do, but you got to take it in stride.
So, but for those that, aren't familiar with you, because I totally went into it because I know you. So, but there's a lot of listeners that aren't familiar with who you are. So let everybody know exactly who Dr. Delvena is, your offices, all that.
Sure. So, man, I'm just an average Black female out here trying to get it. And what drives me trying to get it is my passion about mental wellness and helping people to live better. I never realized it before. When I was younger, I wanted to become a physician, and I thought I wanted to be a women's doctor so I could talk to women about living healthy, deliver babies. And then I got to medical school and was like, oh my God, this is a lot of surgery, right? I didn't have surgical hands. I believe things like hairstylists and makeup artists and surgeons, I believe they have a God-given gift with their hands. Yes, ma'am. And so I didn't have that gift, but instead God gave me the gift of discernment and insight. And as I was sort of just looking at the different specialties, seeing how I can help people, seeing how I can sort of use my gift of talking to folks, making them feel better, I decided on psychiatry. And not only that, psychiatry as far as a business and longevity, when you look at, because you always have to look at the pros and cons of an occupation. So I selected psychiatry for a lot of different reasons. Number one, I felt like God spoke to me. And finished medical school, went to do a residency for 4 years in psychiatry and neurology in Baltimore at the University of Maryland. And right before I started that, I joined the U.S. Army Reserves. I grew up an Army brat. My father was in the military. So I always knew I was going to go in. But at the time, 9/11 had happened, and they needed physicians and especially psychiatrists. So I was like, this is the perfect time to serve my country. So went into the military, finished my residency, and decided my mom passed away while I was in residency, in the middle of residency, and that was a pretty big hit. So I wanted to leave Maryland, which is where I was living. My mom wasn't there, so I just totally selected Florida randomly. I went on job interviews around the country and decided when I was sitting at Bayside Super Bowl weekend 2000, it was 2007 Super Bowl weekend, I could totally live here. I love the water. It's therapeutic. I love the hot sun. Came here, worked for the Bureau of Prisons for 8 years as the chief psychiatrist and their clinical director. And then I decided to open a private practice in 2013, which really didn't get going till 2014, and I got deployed again with the Army. Wow. So went away with the Army with this practice that I just opened, came back in 2015, and that's when I've just been kind of plugging away since then.
You know, listening to your story of how you became a doctor and everything, it's crazy because the patients that you have been servicing are the super traumatized, from prisoners to military at war. How, like, when you're in school to become a psychiatrist, I know there's levels of mental unstableness, but like you went to all the way to the extreme. Like, how do you prepare for that as a doctor?
So you get certain training during residency, right? With a lot of things, it's just like anything else. You have to be self-motivated. You got to read and research and train and teach yourself a lot of things. And just like a surgeon, just like a hairstylist, makeup artist, some things God gives to us naturally. So some of those things, I believe it's from, just God speaking to me, speaking through me. I feel like I'm anointed to do certain things. And then, of course, the gift of discernment. And then I'm motivated. I like to learn. So I'll go to conferences. I'll go to classes. I don't ever know enough. Once you feel like you know enough, you're done. Once you feel like you know it all. Because there's always someone out there doing something better than you or more efficient or learning something new. Because we don't have the time in the day. So when I'm learning this, somebody else is over here doing this. So I might want to know about that. So it's a combination of things. What's natural for you, also schooling, your education, and being you have to continuously learn.
I love that. And that's true in any field too.
It is.
And even not even in career field, personal
gains and growth.
Self-love, self-help books and things like that to keep you growing.
Yeah, we can't get complacent in this world. We just can't do it.
Because this world is moving too fast.
It is.
With or without us. All right, so we spoke a little bit about getting through the holiday hump. What are some of the things that some of your patients or that you see are the things that they're going through because of the stresses and pressure that holiday season has to be perfect? And then they scroll on Instagram and see one girl get a Rolls Royce with a bow, and then they go outside and barely got a straw.
Right. Well, it's funny you use that example because I think financial woes, right? So that always seems to come up. Financial is an issue for people. It's like people buy into this thing about money. If I have more money, I'll be happier. And it's not true. I mean, it's good to have, some nice stuff, some fly stuff, get the most recent this or that or the newest this or that. But you have to appreciate what matters in life. The money is not necessarily what matters. It does help you to live better, depending, right? Because someone could be making hundreds of thousands of dollars less than you and living life and loving it and enjoying themselves. Because when you make $250,000 a year and you spend, $240,000 a year on garbage or junk that doesn't really mean anything, that has no value, the person making $40,000 a year who's investing a little portion of their money and that money's growing, that's using their money wisely, and they have $15,000 or $20,000. These are just examples, but you get what I'm saying. Because sometimes people, especially in America, the more you make, the more you spend. So quality of life really doesn't come down to that. And the flashy gifts, those things don't matter. It's time. That's the thing that matters. So what are the things that people are dealing with during the holidays? Financial is one, because we subscribe to this whole thing about it's Christmas time. That means I have to go out here, have a long list of stuff I have to buy for all these people, which when it comes to children and, certain folks, they really don't give a darn about that gift. Like, those kids might play with it for a few minutes and it's over with,
and it's
right?
Done. I'm
bored, moving on to the next thing or whatever. We should teach our kids that it doesn't come down to that. Now, don't get me wrong. When my son was little, I liked the fantasy also as a little girl of Santa Claus coming and having the cookies and he's coming down the chimney that did not freaking exist. And it's like, okay, but your imagination again, well, maybe he came through the door. Yeah. So, and with my son, I would buy some stuff, Once he got to a certain age, I explained to him, it's really silly for you. This is when, of course, he was past the Santa Claus thing. Yeah. It's kind of like, what do you think about giving me a list of stuff and you know what's on the list? And he never really subscribed to this anyway, and I think it's because of how we lived our lives. But you're giving me a list of stuff. You know what's on the list. I'm going to go buy the stuff and wrap it up, but you already know you already know. So it's kind of silly when you think about it. And my mom didn't do that. When my brothers and I were old enough to know that Santa didn't exist, my mom actually would do her shopping throughout the year. Right? Because she was a smart shopper. So we were in Maryland for the most part. And when it was cold outside, she would buy the warm stuff because it was on clearance. When it was hot, she would buy the cold stuff. So she would buy stuff. I learned this later. One time I went through her closet, and she would have stuff in her closet that she would, give out for gifts. And she would buy stuff closer to the holiday too. But they were meaningful gifts that you could use and learn from and maintain and keep, that meant something, right? So that's the important part. So don't allow finances to make you struggle. All this crap doesn't matter. And I did it too, where I would go shopping and buy all this long list of stuff. And then some years ago, I was like, why do I do this? This makes me unhappy. I'm spending money. I'm out here in these crowds. It just doesn't make sense. So the financial part, and then also relationships. So the worst time to break up or to have a separation is during the holidays, whether it be that whole Thanksgiving, Christmas thing is all rolled into one.
Every commercial is about being in love and getting a diamond necklace and you mattering.
Yes. And then there's Valentine's Day.
Right after.
So those are the two worst times for breakups. But for some reason, people, if they know they're unhappy in a relationship, they'll decide or they'll contemplate a few months before Thanksgiving, Christmas, if they're going to break up with someone, because they want to go ahead and do it and get it over with, so it doesn't get close to the holidays and they break the other person's heart. Or
I thought that was just a meme. It's real.
No, it's real.
No, I'm joking. I know it's real.
And they'll come into the office and they want to talk about how to end a relationship. And I encourage some of them, if they are comfortable with it, even if they're not married, to bring in your spouse, your mate, or your significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, and, process the breakup and sort of just, if it happens, it happens. So couples therapy is not just for married people. Couples therapy is for anyone who's in a relationship. People have to keep that in mind too, because breakups don't have to end badly. You can still be on good terms. You can still be friends. If you pick right person, for some, if you pick the right person to begin with, you'll still be friends when that relationship ends, or on good terms.
It's crazy because like all the boyfriends I had in college or like when I was younger, I'm still friends with them. Like some of them even still call me to see what's going on or whatever.
That's because you're a good person.
But as I get older, it gets worse. Like my previous boyfriend, I don't talk to him. He still tried to hit me up, but I was like, nah. Yeah. But let's talk about 2020. I want to move on from that.
Okay,
he might be listening. 2020, doctor, so many things. New decade. 2020, we have to have clear vision. Yes. I love that. Someone told me that, and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
What should be, or what game plan should we be preparing for 2020?
I think whatever we do, we need to be proactive. That's my word. I always talk about being proactive. So having a plan in place, preparing beforehand, acknowledging some of the things that can happen or go wrong, and being ready for it, as opposed to waiting for a disaster to strike or waiting for a circumstance that's adverse to occur, and then you're trying to respond to it, and you're just sort of like trying to get something together so you can address it. So I think 2020, any new year, but especially 2020, because so many things have happened when we think about it. In the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, this whole presidency thing and all this stuff was going on with the racism, the discrimination, just so many things have happened in our country. But moving forward, right, start looking at you. A lot of people, so politics are in the news. They've been in the news, but even more so now because another election is coming. And I think some people are overconsumed by what's happening in politics. And you got to stop and ask yourself anytime, not just with politics, but you got to stop and ask yourself, when a scenario is taking place, how does this affect me directly? Right? What is my position in this scenario? So, and the reason why you ask yourself this is so you know how much time you should be dedicating to this problem, if you see it as a problem, or to the scenario. If it really doesn't directly affect you, obviously, national politics has something to do with a lot of us. And when we don't get involved, that's why sometimes decisions get made, like Congress being able to retire with all that money and healthcare benefits when the rest of the world is poor, or the rest of the country is poor, or, half the country has no health insurance. Things like that. I'm like, how did that get away from us? How did we allow these people to get this hookup to the point of they're already rich, most of them, when they go in, but then when they retire, they're living lavishly, right? So the scales are not balanced. But anyway, so with certain things, you got to think about, how is this manifesting in my life? Is there a direct connection here? How much does it affect me? And then once you determine that, you know, okay, I'm going to give this 5% of my time, 10%, 50%, whatever the case may be. All in all, the end result here is that a lot of your time, energy, emotional energy, your thoughts, right? Because we only have so much time in a day when we're able to think about stuff, right? When you think about it, you're at work most of the time, or you're doing this or doing that for someone, but we don't really stop to think and meditate and just kind of consider ourselves. So 2020 moving forward, people have to dedicate more time to themselves.
And I'm guilty of that. And that is on my game plan. And I've already been kind of implementing that recently. Like, kind of started with my birthday. I was like, I'm out of here. I'm going on a trip alone. Goodbye, everybody. And disconnected.
Yes.
So I hear, like, a lot of us don't think about ourselves.
We don't.
Yeah.
We don't. A lot of people were busy thinking about family and friends. And depending on if you're like an empath, meaning you're always trying to help someone, you're always feeling badly for that next person, or wanting to help them with whatever situation they have. If you're extreme with that, you're definitely not thinking about yourself. And I always remind my patients, people know who you are. They know who you are, and they know what they can get from you based on how you've been through the years, your personality, your previous behaviors, your past practices.
They know who to go to. They know who to ask for what. They know what you allow is what will continue, is something I always say. Like, if they get away with something like one time, they'll never stop. They'll continue, keep doing it.
Exactly. So you just finished just what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry, doctor.
No, this is good. That's good. So just spot on with that. So people have to remember that. Don't allow other people to make you feel guilty about setting boundaries and saying no. People in 2020 have to learn to say no. Say no. No
as a one word, not no because.
And exactly. You don't owe an explanation to anyone. You don't have to explain to anyone why your money is doing this or doing that. They see you. One person, to a couple of people actually, have told me, oh, I don't post a lot on my social media because then my family will see what I'm working with, basically.
What the heck?
The type of money I have, what I'm spending. And they'll start, and it's true, people see what you have and they start thinking, well, she can do this for me. Well, she can do that. Well, call so-and-so because she was just at such and such. Blah, 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 was at the Super Bowl. And right.
She was just in California.
Right. And my thing is this, I'm living my life. I have one life to live. And so this is what I subscribe to. I'll say no. If you saw me somewhere the day before in some other country, that's for me.
Hello.
Right. So that's what people have to do because you owe it to yourself. You work so hard, you owe it to yourself.
So I know this is like probably putting you on the spot, but top 3 things that people should be doing to mentally prepare for 2020. Like, because like I feel like mental health is like the control of so many things, you know what I mean? Like, if your mental's not okay, then basically how can anything else be okay? How can you just continue on the day-to-day, moving forward with everything that you have going on? Like,
so one of the things that we don't do a good job with would be diet. So you said 3 things. So the first thing is diet. We have to eat better. We have to, and number 1, starting with water, hydrating. A lot of people don't drink enough water all day, throughout the day, every day, consistently. And I remind folks that your brain is over 70% water. So when you're not hydrating or drinking water, you're not only basically damaging your skin and you're not looking your best because you're not drinking water, but your brain is suffering too because when we're drinking water and hydrated, we concentrate better, we're more focused, we're more attentive, we can like mentate faster, we think about things more spontaneously. So diet, which includes drinking plenty of water. Of course, I have these videos about brain love food, things you can eat that helps your brain. So we need to have, I tried this vegan thing for 3 months. I was about to say we got to eat some good fish like salmon. But if you're not a flesh eater, there's other things you can do like supplements to get omega-3. But that's why I would say to include salmon because that has a lot of omega-3 or other fish in your diet because omega-3 is good for memory, retention, reducing the risk of Alzheimer's, dementia, meaning you can't remember things. You forget who you are. You're not oriented to time and stuff like that. Blueberries are really good for concentration and focus. Sweet potatoes are good for the brain. Spinach, arugula, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, all those things. Sunflower seeds. So diet is number one. Number two, exercise. So notice I'm talking about stuff that's prevention, being proactive again. So exercising on a regular basis, at least 3 times per week, at least 20 plus minutes when you're exercising. You could go out and walk every day, as long as physically you're capable of doing that. If you don't have any issues physically and, you're not in pain, you don't have a bad heart, things like that. But exercising, because it increases endorphins. Those are the feel-good chemicals that our brain makes so that we can maintain our mood. So that way, if we do get a little blue or melancholic, our brain is able to pull us out of that. It prevents us from getting anxiety, or if we get a little bit of anxiety, it's not so intense or over involved because we have these natural endorphins like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine that's really doing their jobs in our brains. So diet, exercise, and sleep. People don't sleep enough.
We don't sleep no more.
That's the third thing I would say. You got to have like a strong basic foundation. And a foundation is based on simple basic things that we already have. Things that we can easily change and maintain. Those are the 3 things. Sleeping, people have this fallacy that, I can function off of 4 or 5 hours of sleep every night and I'll be okay. Damn, you're not at your best. It's like you could be a superstar. You're a star now 4 to 5 hours, but you could be a superstar if you were sleeping 7 to 8 hours.
How long?
So it's a myth that you only need 4, 5, 6 hours of sleep. Recommendation is 7 to 8 hours a night. And no, you cannot catch up. People say, I only slept 4 or 5. Yeah, you can't catch up. So you need to give your body what it needs, and your brain. When we're sleeping, our body repairs itself. Our brain is doing some repairs. Also, certain chemicals are only made, really, they peak, meaning they're at their height at night. So when you're not sleeping, you're doing damage to your body. You could look younger, longer, if you're getting your sleep, better sex when you're getting sleep. People forget about that. So the things I mentioned, diet, exercise, sleep, those things play into relationships too, especially in the bedroom or in the kitchen or in the bathroom. So they help with relationships and sexual function as well.
And you know what's so crazy? Like, sometimes I get so busy that I find myself going to bed late because I'm working or whatever, and then waking up still early or whatever. And if that is like the consecutive thing, by like the 5th, 6th day, I'm like delirious, grumpy, about to just slap everybody. Like, when I don't get enough rest, I'm like not a very nice person because I'm just so like exhausted, grumpy, and can't like function. Like you said, I'm all over the place.
Exactly, because your brain didn't get that chance to reset and rest. And that's what happens when you don't sleep consistently. People are irritable, they're moody. Sometimes people are sad, also melancholic. They can't concentrate and focus. More accidents happen when people are not sleeping or getting the rest, the 7 to 8 hours the night before. You also have a difficulty with maintaining weight or losing weight when you're not sleeping consistently the 7 to 8 hours. So folks who can't lose weight, say they can't lose weight, say they're doing the things they need to do to lose their weight or maintain their weight, sleeping plays a lot into that.
So, doctor, we're out of time. So please let everybody know where they can follow your movements. If they'd like to be a patient of yours at your office, where they can contact you. Give all that information out.
Sure. So I'm Dr. Delvena on Facebook, on Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel, Dr. Delvena Thomas. Yeah. And I'm on LinkedIn, of course. So Dr. Delvena is DR. Don't spell out the doctor. DR, Delvena, DELVE, not INA. And also I'm on SoundCloud. So this will be on SoundCloud as well.
In the office. Hello, everybody.
Yes. And my office is in Fort Lauderdale, guys. So I have an office in Aventura, but my main office is in Fort Lauderdale, 2699 Sterling Road. You can hashtag BrainLove and see a lot of stuff about the office, but calling us, 305-981-1700, or sending an email, info@brainlovehelp, that's HELP.com, or info@Dr. same thing, DRDELVENA.help, HELP.
So remember, you guys, I hope everyone has an amazing, blessed, safe 2020. Let's get on it, you guys. This is a new decade, new year.
Yes.
No time to waste, you guys.
Let's be well and live right.
All right. Your girl, Supa Cindy, Community Matters, 99 Jamz. See you next year. Yay.